Welcome to We Gotta Talk. This is the podcast where hype isn't just a buzzword, it's a lifestyle, and it's hosted by me, Jordan, aka Coach J. I'm a dedicated hype beast, and all I want is the best for all. We're here to dissect the journeys, the wins, the setbacks, and the relentless drive that fuels the movers and the shakers of our communities. From artists to athletes, designers to entrepreneurs, social organizers, and real life superheroes. We Gotta Talk shines a spotlight on the excellence that surrounds us, fostering a space where every voice is heard and every story is celebrated. And today, we've got an awesome story from a man that I have had the fortune to meet recently. This is someone I knew immediately that I wanted to have on the show. I asked him in our first conversation ever because I knew beforehand, just from what I saw of him, what I heard from him, from our mutuals, that he's a mover, he's a shaker, he's making an impact, and his impact is actually being made most in Costa Rica. So we've got a listener, we've got a friend of the show down in Costa Rica who's joining us today. His name is Ben, and I'm going to let him go ahead and tell you a little bit about himself. But y'all are in for a treat because Ben is a lot like me, and that's what made me want to bring him on. He's a teen motivational speaker. He's making an impact with the youth. He's putting his money where his mouth is as a philanthropist and using that money to make an impact. Even if it means sacrificing a little bit for himself, he knows that that money is going to come back around and make a huge impact for those around him. Ben is a basketball coach. He's a hooper. Tween to the legs. He's got some skills on the court, and as all great hoopers, he's also a little bit of a hip hop head. He does a little bit of rapping as well. So, welcome, Ben. To We Gotta Talk.
Yes, Jordan. Thanks for having me, or Coach Jay. Let's get it
Hey, I
today.
appreciate that. I appreciate
hmm
that, man. I'm super excited to have you. For anybody who's able to see Ben, he is doing this podcast from the jungle, bro. Like there's jungle behind him. I hear some creatures in the background. Like this man is not on a green screen. This is real life for Ben every day. Ben, like where you're really checking in from Costa Rica in the jungle.
Yeah, we're in Nosara, Costa Rica. It's like a mix between farmland, jungle, and then we got beaches like 10 minutes away from where I'm at. So it's a really cool mix of a lot of things.
So yeah, I'm sure it's pretty cool to live in the most beautiful place in the world.
Yeah, man.
Man, that
Yeah.
looks incredible. That looks incredible. So, um, I know we got a chance to connect just a few days ago, so we haven't known each other for quite that long. So I'm
hmm
excited to kind of have a little bit of a different conversation that I've been having on the show so far. Um, so I want to just get a chance to hear from you. Why do you think I asked you to come on to We Gotta Talk?
Well, I think part of it is because I live in the most beautiful place in the world. Just like, nah, man. But I do think of myself as like have a lot of similarities to what you got going on in your world, with coaching youth, trying to make a difference, coming from the corporate sports world. um yeah, man, just like really trying to make an impact through sports and our lived experience versus it doesn't
hmm
seem like we're living a life that's like out of a book or out of a manual. It's like kind of off the beaten path. So um maybe a little bit of that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's exactly it. You know, you are doing things that are in alignment with what I'm doing, but you're doing it in your own way. And I love that because, you know, the mission is the same. The mission is to create as many opportunities and options for successes for the generation that we get to coach and the people that we get to help. But you're doing it from a different place. You're doing it with a different sport and you're doing it with your own, specific Ben vibe. And I'm doing it
hmm
as myself, as Coach Jay here in North Philly. And like, we have it was cool to have conversations with you, realizing that no matter where we are, we have the same mission, but we also face some of the same struggles.
hmm
So that's really empowering. And one of my other favorite things is that we got started. You mentioned sports business, man. Like we know some of the same people from that business working in the NBA. You were with the Hawks, I was with the Sixers. Can you talk a little bit about what that job selling Hawks tickets? Like I don't know if the Hawks were nice when you were there. I know when I was at the Sixers, man, I went to a 10-win team. Like I went to a historically bad ball team. Like, hey, now you got to go sell this hot slop. And like, Joel Embiid ended up making that a little bit easier, but it was
hmm
still a grind. And like, I learned so much just earlier today. I told my wife, like having that sales training and having that that being forced to be hung up on and deal with rejection and realize it's not about you, like
Hmm.
that was one of the huge things that I learned. What are some of the things that you learned from that early career experience working for the Atlanta Hawks?
Man, well, I shared this with you vulnerably the other day. Like 2 weeks into that job with the Hawks, my dad passed away from an unexpected heart
Yeah,
attack. And
yeah,
so for me, I took a couple weeks off from work after just only being on the job for 2 weeks and literally moving there for the first time. And so for me, I think a lot of the lessons I learned were later on
mm,
how in that moment going back to the job, how much I like dug my head in
yeah,
and tried to get away from the pain and the
mm-hmm,
sadness that I was feeling around my dad. And it
mm-hmm,
shows up in that way of like, oh, this dude's a grinder. Like he's coming in the office at 6 and leaving at 6.
mm-hmm,
Like he's on his grind. Like this is somebody we want to have on our team. Like, so I could tell like if I would have stayed in that path, like I would have been able to move up and
yeah,
been successful in that role. Um, Man, so I learned that I have that tendency, like when things get
mm-hmm,
tough, just like do. We're taught to do that, I think, to an
mm-hmm,
extent, growing up in the States of like just grind it away and keep it moving, keep it pushing. But also I learned that um man, mad lessons. I got that opportunity through my dad. Actually, he worked with somebody's mom who was high up in the Hawks, so I got an
man,
interview. So it was like,
okay.
okay, it's a who you know kind of
You
situation
got to see
too.
how that game is played.
A
Like
hundred
it really is
percent.
important. Like it's important to be a good person and have things that you know, but you also got to know people so that you
Mm-hmm.
can get through certain doors and have opportunities. So that's a huge lesson to be able to learn.
Yeah, man. And I also learned down in my time in Atlanta, like I was living in Smyrna. I was in what they called at the Hawks the Villaggio. So it was like a big, just like apartment complex type place, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like a terrible neighborhood. It wasn't the best neighborhood. But when my dad passed, like had an inheritance. Like I come from maybe I would call it like a upper middle class family. We
Hmm.
didn't have it like that, but like we were set always.
Right.
And my dad, like right before he passed, decided to buy himself a Mercedes Benz. And so I inherited that and drove that down to Atlanta. And then
Damn,
my
you pulled
place
out in
got
the A with the
and I
benzo.
pulled up in the A with the Benz, had the drop top at the red lights, and I was like 22. So
Yeah. Yeah.
like I'm like just wearing my suit to work, and I'm pulling them back up to like this apartment
Yeah.
complex. Man, I learned don't flaunt that shit. Like
Yeah.
that's what I learned because we got
Yeah.
robbed. My apartment got targeted, and we got robbed,
That's
and they
not funny.
stole my
That's not funny,
MacBook.
but like
Yeah,
lesson
man.
learned. You're
Lesson learned,
safe. You're safe
straight
and
up.
lesson learned.
And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, like, when you talk about lessons, the reason that comes up, one is kind of funny, but two, it's like seriously something that's traveled with me. And I see it down here in Costa Rica. People
Hmm.
coming down here, multimillionaire people building multimillionaire houses and getting robbed
Yo, you
and
especially can't
driving
do that.
around Land
You
Cruisers.
can't do
Like,
that when the poverty gap is that wide either.
it's
Like
crazy. Like,
because you're flaunting so much extra around people who have not and have
nothing,
nots want to
dude.
have. So like
Yeah.
you're
It's
coming to
just
their home too. Like you don't know the lay of
facts.
the land. You gotta have, my dad always told me this, man, have your head on a swivel. Pay attention to
Hmm.
your surroundings and like be cognizant of what you're doing. Like if you get your chain jacked because you're wearing a $5,000 chain, I don't necessarily, you know, feel bad for you. Like
Right. You got to
know
learn that
know what you're
lesson in
doing.
some
You gotta
way.
learn that
Yeah.
lesson.
Yeah, man. So lessons learned.
Yeah, for sure. So I know that was I'm sure that was a difficult time, and you said that you poured yourself into your work, and I
Hmm.
do think that's a very American idea, right? And
Hmm.
that's maybe something that I'm wondering if you've learned or unlearned any lessons around that that way of dealing with things,
Hmm.
specifically from your time being in Costa
I'm
Rica.
I'm still learning, but I'm definitely aware of it. Um, it can show up just like if I'm feeling a little discomfort in my body or something's been on my mind just this morning. Like something was on my mind, and in the past I would just like, all right, well, time to get to work. Like, let me
Hmm.
go build this website and market this thing or whatever it is that I was working on. My projects are at the time. And this morning, it shows a lot of growth that I've had in that area. I mean, this was 10 years ago that my dad passed away, but
Hmm.
like it's still a process of let me take some time. Let me be with myself. Let me just lay here, literally
Mm-hmm.
lay here and just
Mm-hmm.
feel the feelings that are happening, and then allow them to like process, or maybe learn something in that moment. Maybe, even I know you guys can hear the squawking of this bird, and Jordan specifically said like go somewhere where there's like not loud animals and stuff. Um, but,
I love
but
it. I love it.
for me,
You can't escape it.
for real, for me though, the moments of like tapping into nature in that sort of way to help me slow down has been something that's totally helped that process of like, okay, we don't need to work through this stuff. We just need to
Mm-hmm.
feel it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
how we heal it. It's,
Did you realize that was like a real thing, like that grounding, that need for nature and that need for filling the other parts of your spirit? Like, I don't think that's something that's talked about in schools. It's definitely not talked about in American workplaces. It's not talked about a lot of times in families or even friendship conversations in communities. But I truly, truly, it's the only way I get to do all the things that I do, like juggling all the different things and having the energy that, I've been told is infectious. Like the only reason I have that is because I do take that time to slow down and rest and relax. Like, what was it for you?
mm-hmm.
Because it's not quote unquote normal, right? I feel like
Mm-hmm.
you have to get there. You have to
Yeah.
get there. What was your path to that?
I mean, shoot, dude, it was loss. It
Yeah.
was grief. The first time that I had it was in college. A good friend of mine, star running back on the team. I know you're a football guy. Star
Mm-hmm.
running back on the team, like in college, all conference honors, like best running back in the league. Also a guy that I rapped with. He
Mm-hmm.
was just like that dude, you know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Fearless, like successful at whatever it was, didn't really give a fuck about stuff, like just like
Yeah.
went out and did his thing. On his way home from the bar one night, got jumped by a group of like 8 dudes and got beaten up, left there, and died in an
Damn.
alleyway, just south of Pittsburgh. And that was the first somebody I knew that passed away at
Mm-hmm.
21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was my classmate. So I was like, this could have been anybody,
Right.
any one of us, this could have happened to. And man, I had this, I went on a drive and went down, just like took the roads out to the countryside. Just like
Mm-hmm.
that's my intuition was just like go to the country, kind of get away.
Mm-hmm.
And in that experience, I saw, I'm driving down this beautiful tunnel of trees, orange, reds. It's autumn, so the leaves are changing colors, and it's literally tunneling over this dirt road that I found myself on. And 2 blue jays swoop in from one side, and another one swoop in from the other side. So there are these 3 blue jays just kind of leading me through this like gorgeous tunnel. And really looking back on it and having practiced mindfulness and just being present, I was so present in the moment, and it gave
Yeah.
me so much peace and comfort and safety,
Yo.
and just that knowing that it's going to be all right. He's in a good spot. Like we're like, I'm good. He's good.
Yeah.
Like the whole situation is as it's meant to be. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to fight it. And it's okay to be sad, but I am safe. I'm protected. I'm connected to, especially to nature and especially to birds, is a big thing that I took away from that. And then same thing when my dad passed away, fast forward, it was only like 8 months later that my dad passed away after
Damn.
this had happened. And we're sitting at his burial site, before they lower him in the ground. And we're just sitting quiet underneath this tent. And I hear and it's this bird. It's called a black-capped chickadee. It's, and my dad growing up would mimic that bird, and they would go back and
Yo.
forth, and he would go, and the bird would go, and it just happened in the dead silence of his burial. And me and my sister look at each other like, yo, you hear that? And
Mm-hmm.
like it was crazy, man. So I know that I don't follow a specific religion or anything like that, but I know I'm connected to some greater power, great
Yeah, for
spirit, whatever,
sure.
Mother Earth, the universe, whatever you want to call it. I believe it's all the same stuff that we're talking about, and that it's powerful, and it's here to protect us and keep us safe. And that also just has connected me to nature on a deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
And I do just want to say too, like, you don't need to be in Costa Rica, in the
Nah.
jungle, in the mountains,
Nah.
on the beach to get nature. Like I was
Nah.
living in
I do
West
it every
Bald,
day in Philly.
right? Philly, you're in South Philly, North Philly,
I'm in North. I'm like close
North.
to Fairmount, man. I found a dog. I found my second dog in nature in Philly. Like
Yes. Yes, dude.
it's
And
every
like
day.
for me, I bought a house in West Baltimore, and 2-3 blocks away from like where it really goes down in West Baltimore. I needed
Mm-hmm.
something cheap,
Mm-hmm.
and I found nature there. I would go down to the river, and yeah, there would be trash, and you'd have to navigate needles or just stuff that you
So you just got to be
don't
outside.
out here. But it's like, yo, I'm appreciating nature here
Mm-hmm.
in West Baltimore. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
can do this anywhere, even if it's one tree in your backyard. You can connect
Get
and
a
reap
little
the
garden.
benefits
Amazon
of it.
selling these things I'm looking at getting. It's a little like it looks like a cabinet, but it's a greenhouse. And I
Mm,
live in a row home in Philly. I'm probably gonna get that and be able to have some
yep,
peppers, some tomatoes, something, just to
exactly.
be just like that feeling of be able to grab the food that you grew and just pick it up and
Mm-hmm.
eat it. Like there's something to
Mm-hmm.
that. There's something about being that connected to nature and like spending time in nature, feeling like we know there's scientific benefits. You and I,
Mm-hmm.
we've had backgrounds where we've learned about those things. Like it's good to have the sun on your skin so you get some vitamin D. It's good to wake
Mm-hmm.
up and see the light because that helps keep your circadian rhythm right, keeps your internal clock
Mm-hmm.
right. Like you got to make sure you get enough sleep. You got to make sure it's dark when you sleep, that you know that you're getting water, that you're taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, like you said. Like it doesn't matter about religion. Religion's it's a made up artificial thing. Like it's a culture of people's stories that they believe. You have
Mm-hmm.
to believe what you want to believe, and if you can have that set of beliefs, and that set of beliefs keeps you being a good person, I think that's what's most important. If you know
Mm-hmm.
who you are and you know how the world needs you to be a better place, like that's religion enough for me. I'm good
Mm-hmm.
at that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
good with
Yeah,
that.
exactly. You're taking care of each other, living from a place of gratitude just for whatever it is you got going on.
Absolutely,
Um,
man. I wanted to get back to kind of your career path because you didn't go from working for the Hawks for a little while to being in Costa Rica. So,
mhm.
what was it after the Hawks? What kind of pulled you away after that month of being in Atlanta?
Yeah, so down there for that month, and 2 weeks after my dad passed, I got this call from Under Armour. And in college, I was looking for an opportunity in footwear. I had this awesome mentor. His name's Dick Crosby. He was the chief chemist at Nike for like 20 years.
That's a hell of a mentor
And
to have.
amazing. He went to my college, so I got in touch with him through like the alumni program or whatever. And we had just been like email pals for like my
Hmm.
first 2.5 years of college. And he hit me up junior year and was like, "Hey, do you want to go with me to South Korea? I got some business over there. I'm going to the Nike factories. I'm going to some material factories and vendors. I gotta help them out and consult." And I'm like, heck yeah. And he paid for my flight with his mileage.
Yo,
All we had to do was pay for the hotel that we were staying at, and I was in Korea just taken care of. So I got to
that's
go over there, see
crazy.
that, and I was like, yo, this is what I want to do for sure.
Hmm.
Cause I didn't really know. Like, and that's been a that's been a challenging part of the journey for me, is just like not fully knowing, because it doesn't feel like there's a path for me,
Hmm.
like, so just kind of taking those little snippets as I go. And so yeah, through him, once again, he had a connect at Under Armour that was looking for a position. And I interviewed for a wear testing position where they put the shoes on athletes and test how they feel, how they
That's
fit. Like,
cool.
do they wear out after a week, or are they going to
Are
last?
they gonna last the 3 months they should if you're putting serious
Exactly.
miles in? Yeah.
So I was interviewing for that, and they were like, man, like, we like you, but we don't think you're a wear testing guy. You think you would be good as a developer. And I'm like, so I didn't get the job? Like, I'm up here on the low from my job at Atlanta, like 1 month into that
Yeah.
position. Like, what do you mean? And so I got like a call back a couple weeks later. Hey, we want to hire you as a developer. And I didn't even interview for that position, which was like awesome. And it ended up being the perfect position for me. Got to incorporate a little more of like the engineering and the build side of the shoes.
That's crazy
And
cool.
my first projects, bro, I can't even like, it's crazy, the alignment. You get a guy like Michael Jordan or LeBron
Hmm.
or James Harden, and
Hmm.
nobody's touching those projects but like higher up senior level designers, developers, and marketing people.
Yeah.
I'm in there, and before Steph was Steph, I'm working on the
Yo.
Curry 1 and the
No.
Curry 2, and it's a dream come true. And
Yo.
Steph wears the same size shoe as me, so any extra samples that are laying around, I'm putting them on. I'm going on the court. If he needs a wear test before we send him 8 pairs of all
It-
different styles and sizes,
it's
like,
you.
I'll try them on. I'll get them down to the final
Yo.
3 or 4 and send them over to him. Like, man, it was the
This is
best
what, 23, 24
posi-
years old?
this was 23. This was or 24. Yeah, 24, 2014. Yeah, man. Just next level opportunity.
Man, that's crazy. I think that's wild. And being able to have that type of opportunity that early on in your career is super impressive and super impactful. Like I'm sure that sets you up. Like after that, you don't feel like there's anything you can't do. It gives you that empowerment to know like, yo, like my feet are where Steph Curry's feet are. Like we wear the same shoes. Like
Right.
that is
Right,
a
man.
wild.
Right.
It's just
Yeah, it
wildly
was
empowering to be able to have that experience and set you up.
yeah, it felt just like such a gift, man. And I'm getting the chills thinking
Yeah.
about it now because literally to have my dad pass and then 2 weeks later get hit up by a company that like a footwear opportunity and then to be put in that position and literally start with Steph Curry projects is like it just doesn't happen. It just really doesn't. And it wasn't
No,
because I was
no, that's not
talented
supposed
or
to happen.
anything. It was like that was the position that was open, and right, it's like I got lucky as hell, and I am still so thankful
Nah,
for
but
that
like
opportunity, man. And
luck.
I just kept
Yeah, I
go
was
ahead,
gonna
go ahead.
say luck comes to those who are prepared. Luck comes to that person who's prepared and
Mm-hmm,
ready for opportunity. You don't just get to be lucky all the
mm-hmm,
time. Like you have to have certain things either afforded to you or you have to have like you set yourself up by reaching out to that alumni from your school. You continued to foster that relationship over email and then when the moment struck you capitalized. Like
mm-hmm,
you did the small little things ahead of time sending that email. So many people won't even start the conversation by going and reaching out to the alumni. You not only
mm-hmm,
started it, you kept it going. You kept it going
mm-hmm,
to the point where when he knew what he was doing when he took you there.
mm-hmm.
He knew what he was doing. Like but you made him think of you. You made him think that, oh, like this is someone that has been steady from a young age. Like this is someone who's valuable to the team. Let me go ahead and plug him in
Mm-hmm,
because I know him, I trust him, and I know he's going to do his job and do it well.
mm-hmm,
And that was a
mm-hmm.
dope opportunity for you. And like,
Yeah,
yeah, you
man.
got lucky that you knew the guy, but like you also made that luck for yourself. So I
Yeah, I
just wanted to make
appreciate
sure
that, dude.
you
I
recognize
appreciate that.
recognize that it wasn't just all dumb luck.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's those connections. I just like continue to express gratitude for those people that put you on.
hmm
And I
hmm
think you're doing the same thing with this podcast, man. You're putting people on.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful
Well,
gift.
one of the things that I don't know if I've ever really said this out loud is like, man, the world is kind of fucked up. Like it's kind of terrifying. Like I've said that before, but like my thing is like I know I can't change the whole world,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to impact my little corner of it. So,
Mm-hmm.
whoever listens to this and hears your voice and gets to hear your story and gets to hear the other guests that come on here and especially if it's some kids, man. I coach 14 to 18-year-old kids, but my goal is not to coach you just for when you're 14 to 18. I'm trying to make sure you're good when you're 20, 25, 30,
Mm-hmm.
35, 40, well into your adulthood. Like I want to make sure that I'm giving you a little bit of the game so you can be the adult that you want to be, that you set up for the path that you want to be on. And that's really all I want to bring on here is people that are good people doing good things because even
Mm-hmm.
though the world is really messed up and there's terrible people out there, I think there's way more good. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not what's always talked about. It's not what's always told. It's not what gets the clicks and the views and the likes. But like, we got to
Mm-hmm.
keep it a buck, yo. Like, we got to do better. If we don't start doing
Mm-hmm.
better, like the kids, the situations and the problems that they're gonna have to come up with and solve, we got to equip them because
Mm-hmm.
we're making a big mess. Like
Yeah,
everything's
man.
getting more complicated. The world is getting bigger, but our minds are getting smaller. And like, it's a scary place out here.
Well, yeah.
And we got to be able to talk about what we got to talk about.
Yeah, man, I got a perspective on that just around like you talk about being better. To me, like the place I'm at in life these days is just being loving,
It's
just
so
like
easy.
and just be love. Like it's
hmm
kind of, I think about it, I'm like, man, am I gonna sound like I'm trying to push like a religion or something? Like, what would love do? It's kind of like those
Right.
WWJD
Right. Right.
bracelets,
Right.
or you
Right.
know what I'm
Right.
saying? But like, it's the same thing. Like Jesus, like represented love. To me, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what would love do? Like, that's how it doesn't need to be complicated. How do we
Nah.
do and be better? It's like, you can try to solve these complicated problems, which people are working on that. And thankfully
Mm-hmm.
they are to
Mm-hmm.
solve these complicated problems. But for everybody,
It's got
no
to start with
matter,
that space of
just
love.
just love, gratitude, empathy. But really, it's just simply put, love, because love to me embodies all of those things. It
It's
embodies
facts.
all of those beautiful qualities of humanity, and what it means to be human. And it's it can be challenging at first if you're coming
Mm-hmm.
from a place of hurt or trauma, or just like growing up around the wrong people potentially that aren't
Not
living
knowing,
from a
just
place
not
of
having
love.
learned that, yeah, not
Yeah,
having
not
that
not
replicated in front of you for you to follow in the footsteps.
exactly. It can be really challenging, but to your point, like, and I've found these groups all over the world because of, thankfully, like, the internet being possible here. You can tap into these groups that are love. Like, make
Mm-hmm.
sure you do your research, and that it's not a cult out here trying to suck you in somewhere. My wife's always on that cult radar. Like, is it cult? Is it? She watched too many of those documentaries, man.
I think she watched just enough. Like she watched
Yeah.
the right amount. She's on alert. That's good. Got to
Right.
have your security team in place. Make sure you don't end up, especially, you
Right.
can't end up in a cult. We can't do it.
Nah, don't do it. Don't do it, man. But no, for real, just like that's the way to be better. It's not
Yeah.
complicated. It's real simple.
Right. Because once you
Um,
hear yourself and you have the love for yourself, you go start to share that. Like it's incredible where people will plug you into. Like
mhm,
people like to work with people that show love and are kind and are
mhm,
empathetic. And yeah, you got to be able to get the job done. But like, there's people who can get the job done, but there's not as many people that can be a good teammate and
mm,
be someone that's enjoyable to be around and be that loving person. So that's a superpower right there.
for
It'll unlock
sure.
so much for you,
For
so
sure.
so much. So you are not really in uh typical corporate America anymore.
Mm-mm.
Can you kind of talk a little bit about what got you what got you started with coaching? Because I know that was a huge moment for you. What made you want to step into that career path?
Yeah, so right after I left Under Armour, just because I didn't see myself in the next position, and honestly, they didn't have an opportunity of where I wanted to go next.
Hmm.
So it made me sit back and reflect, and I thought to myself, on like the rooftop of my my rooftop deck in Baltimore, like, I've always loved basketball. I've always thought that I could be a good coach. Like, always have had that in my mindset, like, yo, I could really do that, and just never did it, never coached. So I was like, let me go try this out. Let me go down. Uh, let me and I like doing things to the next level. I've always wanted to live in another country, and I wanted to try out this coaching thing. So I started looking at, like, hey, coaching abroad, like volunteer coach abroad somewhere. And I found a few opportunities online,
Hmm.
and some of them were in Asia. And I was like, I've done Asia like through Under Armour, so let me
Right.
try another spot. And then the two opportunities I saw were in Africa, one in Togo, and they speak French, and the
Hmm.
other one in Ghana, and they speak English. So I was like, all right, I'm going to Ghana because I definitely
I
don't
don't
know
know
any
French.
French. So I found that opportunity and was just like, all right, cool. Like, I'm going down there, and I'm going to volunteer at this basketball academy called Royalty Sports Academy. And I lived at a soccer academy called Rising Stars of Africa, and right in the capital city of Accra. And man, was there for 3 months and just realized how much I loved being around kids. Like, living with the soccer kids, they're like 11 to
Yeah.
18 years old, like, and they just, especially in Ghana, and probably as a blanket statement in Africa in general, just
Yeah.
the energy is so different. Like, it's like, we don't need anything, and we're going to have the best time in the damn world. Like, we'll have
Yeah.
little like, not bottles of water, bags of water, and we're going to be out there like having a dance party with a phone. We don't even have the speaker, like, just put the music on the phone, and we're
That's all we
throwing
need.
water in the air like it's Cancun spring break, and they're just like, and it's just a blast, man. And we're playing a djembe, and like, people playing batteries together as like the little clave, like, like, it's just,
Anything.
anything is can be fun. And I was just infected by that joyful, playful, kid-like energy. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, man, I want to continue to help kids like this, kids in general, when I get back, when I
Yeah.
go back to Baltimore. And so that was really my start of Give and Grow basketball. And same thing down there. Another thing that ignited it, man, was loss.
Mm-hmm.
One of the his name was Robert. He was one of like the mentors who actually was from Ghana, lived there. He like helped to run the whole academy, died of like a heart failure. Like this,
Out of
something that
nowhere.
out of nowhere at 27 years old, like young, healthy, fit. Like this dude's playing soccer, like skinny, slim, like
Mm-hmm.
ripped, like heart failure. And man, I just remember it wasn't new to me at this point, you know, losing a friend, losing my dad, and then losing this guy who I'd only known for a month, but I was living with him. He was like guiding me around the city. And I just felt inspired that day. I'm like, you know, I want to inspire millions of people to be the best they can be, you know, and so that was a big push behind starting Give and Grow, which is a nonprofit now. We didn't know at any point
Didn't know what you were
how the
doing. You
heck
just
to
had to
do.
start doing it.
Hell no, we started as a for-profit. Then we were like, we should do nonprofit because this is like give back work and it's not about the money. And then so we went to nonprofit, and then fast forward 5 years and it's like kind of transitioned back to a for-profit, but there's
Mm-hmm.
still so many nonprofit missions going on with it. You know, like
Yeah.
it's just weird, man. And once again, it was like we don't need to get involved with the how to do something. You know, it doesn't need to be like that. It's just like go with the passion and you'll figure it out. And you'll
Yeah.
find people along the way that'll help, and it'll just it'll work out.
That's awesome, man. And that's what I'm starting to see too. And that makes it, once you tap in and you start having conversations, you start meeting people and you get the energy of other people that are out trying to make an impact, especially an
Mm-hmm.
impact that's aligned with what you're trying to do. Man, that gives you all the energy in the world to just keep out and get going. But it also
Mm-hmm.
gives you connections to resources. And that's another
Mm-hmm.
reason we have to talk about what we want to do. Like people try to do their own thing in their silo and, sit in their own little corner and just face in the wall trying to run forward, but you gotta let people help you because those
Yeah.
walls will come down so much faster. Like you gotta know what you're asking for, and you gotta be able to build those relationships with people. But once you do, and you're out there for a good cause, like good things will happen, good things will come. So I love that. And it sounds like I have this theory and this idea of that I picked up along the way from a mentor of mine about the Willy Wonka. Hold on 1 second. I have this theory that I picked up from a mentor or a coach not too long ago about the Willy Wonka elevator. So I feel like I consider that how I did my career. Like it wasn't always just straight up on the same path. It wasn't, start as a sales associate with an NBA team, go to an account executive, go to a director, VP, go up the same exact ladder, which is what, a lot of people have done and have had success with. I've kind of gone from sports to financial technology to educational technology to consulting and now to coaching and consulting. And you've kind of done the same thing where you started in one space, went over here, bounced around, and you've mentioned that you kind of struggled to find what your ideal role was. But I don't think that's a struggle. I think that's just a learning process. You're starting to scratch off what you do like and what you don't like, and being able to have more clarity about what you want to do, what you're good at, and you start to find that purpose. And you get, what do you want to do as a kid is like a huge circle. It can encompass everything, like whatever whatever you've seen. You're like, oh, I've seen people be police officers. I really think that would be fun. Oh, I've seen people be firefighters. I've seen people be doctors or lawyers or teachers. But then you start to see these other jobs that pop up that you didn't even know existed. And I think that's what's so exciting about today for kids, but also kind of daunting is like there's jobs that don't even exist yet. So that Willy Wonka track where you're kind of bouncing around all over the place and not taking one straight path, that's going to be more and more consistent. And that's going to be more and more what people do along their careers. So I think that's a great skill and a great experience to have. How did you kind of navigate that? Because it can be pretty challenging to keep a focus when it seems like everything is of interest and everything is an option.
Yeah, man, it is challenging. I'm still figuring that one out. You know, I think the thing that's helped me navigate it is just kind of being thrown in the fire to like do just, you gotta you gotta focus in. And it can be hard to do that when there's not a little pressure in doing so. I think some people experience that pressure when they have a kid, like, okay, I got to dial this in because I got a kid now, like I can't just do it on myself. For me, it was a change in a financial situation. I told you a little bit, like I had an inheritance from my dad and just
Right.
didn't really want anything to do with it at first. It was just like, hey, let me put it in this, like whatever, let me put this in an account and have it grow, hopefully. And then going to, what, like, oh no, I'm going to take the money and I'm going to have it invest in a way that's going to grow fast. I want to like 2x this thing in like 2 years. Right. And then so you find the people you think will help you out, and then it's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
And you
Oh,
lose the whole,
yes.
and you
Oh,
lose the whole entire thing and change your whole entire vision for what it was. But it really lit that flame for me
yeah.
of go from like coasting and like, yeah, why not? I'll go on a 10-day meditation retreat, which was fire and
Mm-hmm.
amazing,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm totally like airy, spacey, like, and I'm connected to, I feel connected to like a higher vibration, as people might call it,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it wasn't grounded. It wasn't down here in earth. So I wasn't truly making the impact at that time that I could have with the money that I had, or with
Mm-hmm.
just my time and energy.
Right.
So it's really been that pressure of life, and that has rooted me in a certain direction, but still it's hard. I've never been diagnosed with like ADHD or anxiety, but I know I experience anxiety daily, and I know I have ADHD tendencies,
Mm-hmm.
and those things can make it be like, oh, like let me just hop over here and try this.
Yeah.
But really, life has, and that pressure of life, not in like a bad way, like a
Yeah.
negative pressure. It's not like it's a resistance to the pressure. It's like, no, this has actually helped me gain
Mm-hmm.
clarity and decide on a direction.
It shows
um
you what is most important, what you got to focus on. It lets
mm-hmm.
you know, like those pressures comes from specific obstacles or specific responsibilities that you then focus in on. You're like, all right, cool. In order for me to solve this problem or deal with this responsibility that I have to come up with a plan and then
Right,
stick to that plan over a
right.
disciplined, intentional amount of time. We'd
Mm-hmm.
be all right. I love that,
Yep.
man. I love
Yeah.
that. So that's a interesting perspective to have, that the pressures of life kind of sometimes guide you even when you're creating a new path.
Right.
Like we think
Yeah.
that pressures are going to push us in a direction we might not want to go, but it might sometimes push you in a direction you need to go.
Yeah, for sure. And at the same time, those new paths that you're talking about, I really resonate with that, because I kind of hinted on it earlier. Like there wasn't this like straight out path for me, and I'm still like defining what that path is. We live in such a beautiful time where we can kind of make it our own, and that it can be really challenging to define that. And it's kind of like, you're going through the jungle and you're like clearing out the way. It's not that clear blown path that you're just following along, that's turned into like a big tourist trap and just everybody's doing it, and it's not as peaceful and enjoyable. But in that brush, you can come across some snakes, you can come across some poison ivy, like there's going to be that stuff that it's like, dang, that's extra challenging. Like life is challenging even if you're going up the corporate ladder or whatever, but like it's so challenging, but it's been so rewarding to do that, because I know it's like an aligned path for me, and it really takes that interconnection versus, and I'm not hating on a corporate ladder and climbing that and doing your thing. For some people that may be aligned, but for some people I bet it's not, and that can lead to emptiness or depression or just disconnection from yourself, because I think the same thing as these pressures, they point you in alignment with your heart's desire, your truth, whatever you want to call it, and then the
Mm-hmm.
mind then becomes an ally to that mission. And that's the challenge for me. Like I think my heart knows what it wants, but my mind's like, are you sure? Like it would be a lot easier if you just like went and became a college coach, or
Like,
if you
what if you
went
just did this
back
the
to
easier
Under
way?
Armour.
Take the
right. Like
easy
it,
way out.
go secure the bag. And
Yeah.
I think there's,
Hmm.
it's, I don't want to fight and resist that because I think there's truth and help in there. You know, it's
Hmm.
like, okay, you don't need to go all by yourself without like into this jungle and just like by your hands and feet, like go through this. Like, what tools can you bring along the way? Can you bring a machete? Can you have some friends come along with you on that path? Like, can it be like a little deviation versus like, no, we're going into uncharted territories, nobody's ever been here before? Like, it can be, it doesn't have to be so extreme, it can be subtle in this change of path, but those subtleties can bring that um like that connection to your deeper purpose or your
Hmm.
deeper desires and the stuff that might not be able to be found
It's
on that
almost just
beaten
like
path.
inaction is the worst thing that we can do. Like you just have to start. And it doesn't have to be a big start. It can be
Mm-hmm.
subtle, like you said, and do it with people. Community
Mm-hmm.
and communities in action. That's how
Mm-hmm.
you make an impact. I love that.
Yes,
That's
sir.
incredible. And I want to talk a little bit more specifically about what you started with Give and Grow and who you started it with, because that's kind of our connection and what, introduced us and got this conversation even started. So can you tell us a little bit about what Give and Grow is, where you guys started, how you got started, and what it is now?
Yeah, so kind of like I hit on, started the idea in Ghana, came back to Baltimore, and was just trying to like put together a vision, put together how am I gonna deliver this vision? And along that path, I met Ryan McFarland, and Ryan was living in Baltimore. We had played pickup before I went to Ghana on the same men's pickup team. And we kind of hit it off, started following each other, whatever, but never hung out or anything like that. When I got back from Ghana, he was like, dude, that looked like an awesome trip. Let's catch up. I see what you're doing, starting this like personal growth, personal development with basketball. Like, I'm a basketball trainer and I would just like to learn more, kind of thing. So we
Hmm.
just started meeting at Starbucks, like every couple of weeks or every week or so. And I could tell he was really interested in the vision and loved how big it was and wanted to be a part of it. And I needed help with it because
Hmm.
I realized like, okay, if I really want to impact millions of people, I can't do that by myself. So I hired Ryan, and he left his job in like the Parks and Rec, and took a pay cut to do it. But it was like, these were the big risks that I think he and I made
Pan off
that
now.
are that lead to it, that
Yeah.
lead to like cool stuff that you
Hmm.
really want to be doing. And he took that leap and had to talk with his wife, and then we just started working on it together. And I was kind of like, Ryan was like full time on it. I was like half time because I was still doing like a life coach training. Like, I was really working on my mental and emotional. Like, I
Hmm.
was in that, and I was like bringing what I was learning into the curriculum. But it was the same thing. We reached out to sports psychologists, therapists, school counselors, uh, basketball coaches, and we were like,
Hmm.
okay, what are the most important things for kids in kindergarten to fifth grade to learn in the mental health space and in the basketball space? So we reached
Yep.
out to D1 coaches and trainers, and we were like, all right, whatever those things are, we're going to somehow combine them into a program, and that's what we're going to teach. And we met this guy, Graham Betchart, along the way, and um, he's done a lot since we talked to him, but he was, I guess, like most famous for being Aaron Gordon's mental performance coach,
Oh,
and
that's dope.
introduce Aaron Gordon and Zach Levine. No, not Zach Levine. Yeah, Zach Levine plays for the Bulls, not Adam Levine.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, Zach
Yes.
Levine.
Okay. There we
Yes,
go.
there you
Zach.
go.
Um, he had like introduced these guys to meditation when they were like 12, 11, 13 years old. And he had this whole curriculum already created called Play Present. And he had
Hmm.
5 skills in there. Next play speed, be where your feet are, see, breathe, do. Um, I'm drawing a blank on a couple of the other ones right now. Positive self-talk and what's important now.
And making
Those
it
were
something
his,
that's rememberable. Like
yeah,
it has, you have to
memorable,
be able to remember
easy.
it, and it has to be memorable. It has to be impactful, but you have to be able to draw on this stuff. Like you can't have it be this whole long thing you got to remember. Give me
No,
5
no,
quick things that I can be
simple.
intentional about. Simple.
Simple. So he was like, "Hey, dude, I like I like created this, but I didn't create this. Like I was
Right.
gifted this to share
Right.
with the world. And so take this, run with it, do what you want with it. And so we took those 5 skills that he, generously offered us, and we added one more. I am identify, accept, and manage
Mm,
emotions. And that was coming from the more like therapy, school counselor, childhood psychology, like
right.
those
Right.
people were all giving us that one. Like they need to be able to identify, accept, and manage emotions. Okay, so you have mindfulness mixed with emotion management, and now we just got to put them into some basketball drills. So
Mm-hmm.
we started just getting creative, and I had 5 whiteboards in my basement, and we just started like, how can we teach this? Okay, positive self-talk will be like our dribbling station, and we'll just have them like pounding the
Oh, so
ball.
you
And
actually, yeah, really
so
tied into the
you're
actual
doing you're
activity.
doing it in the activity. So it's like, because how long are you going to be able to sit down with a kindergartner to a 5th grader and
You're
talk to
not.
them or guide them through a meditation? No, they got to be moving. So
Mm-hmm.
as they're doing their dribbling workout, give us a positive self-talk. That sounds like, I am
Yeah.
amazing, I am beautiful, I am a great basketball player, I'm like LeBron James, like whatever it is that you want to say, like say it here now. And then in our passing station, it's like sharing emotions, sharing compliments, sharing uh, even little things like what you ate for breakfast, like just
Mm-hmm.
icebreaker type stuff, like, but sharing, opening up, and then working towards that vulnerability and just creating like that dialogue. Cause I mean, especially after COVID, like kids weren't really talking or with each other, so like share.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, we incorporated them into the drills, and that was kind of like our breakthrough. And then COVID happened, and we found our way to virtual programming, and then started being able to do this to entire schools, entire school districts, so impacting hundreds to thousands of kids at once. And that
Yeah.
was like, boom, we figured it out. Like this is how we're going to continue to make our impact. But that took 4 years,
Four
four and a
years of
half years
activity,
of
activity,
activity, of just doing
energy,
like after
time, sacrifice.
all the stuff until we actually found what it was. And once again, it was like we had a plan, but we kind of would go off the plan,
Mm-hmm.
and we would just explore, like, um, and we just figured out a way to make that work for us.
That's beautiful, man. Like it's just it shows that if you just get started and you talk and you share, like all the things that you are coaching or the things that made Give and Grow possible. You
Mm-hmm.
had to share your idea with Ryan. You had to share your feelings. You had to communicate. You guys had to be aware of who you were. You had to be where your feet were and take care of what was
Mm-hmm.
in front of you. Like you guys
Mm-hmm.
had to not only come up and like create your own ways to do this through basketball, you had to do it for yourself first.
Right.
So it
Right.
goes back to like that idea of take care of the person in the mirror, take care of the person that you are, and like put your mask on first. If like the
Mm-hmm.
proverbial world's plane is going down, you got to take care of yourself before you can start taking care of anybody else. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that, and I think that speaks directly to you as a coach. And I just want to get real quick before we start wrapping this thing up. I want to get 3 things from you as a coach that you think that our generation that's coming in behind us needs as they go in to sports, but not only in sports and athletics, but as they become the generation of leaders that we're building. What are the 3 things that you think they need to be
Mm-hmm.
successful?
I'll say the first thing, slowing down. Yeah, that's a big one. You want me to go in on these or just kind of
Yes,
list them off?
especially that
Okay.
one.
Slowing down, because first of all, as a basketball coach, seeing these players, how many mistakes and turnovers and missed shots happen because
Hmm.
they're just going way faster than they're capable of. And it's because of excitement.
Hmm.
They're excited and hyped to be on a court, especially down here. Basketball is new, so they've never played games. So they're like in the games, and they're like so wired that they just can't execute. So slowing down before the game, slowing down your mind using different tools and skills, calming down your energy, all of it to me, just the key word is just slow. Like
Love
going
that.
slower, and that can create the space for new choices, or just choices in general. You're going slower. Now I can see the defense and choose what I want to do versus just
Hmm.
like my body's just kind of running the show and I'm just doing whatever the heck is
Reacting.
happening.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm responding instead of reacting. So yeah, I would say slowing down physically, but mentally. And that's why I like teaching things like breath work and meditation, because it's forcing you to slow down. Like you'll see kids sitting in their chair, whether in person or virtually, and they're just like, we like done yet? Like opening their eyes like prematurely, and it's like, no, like still we're slowing down, like we're going slow. And
It's a
there's
hard thing to
so much.
do.
It is. And I mean, it's not just the kids, it's adults too. It's the whole
They learned it from
society.
somewhere.
everything is everything is getting faster and
Yeah.
faster rapidly. It's like a lot of the problems can be solved, or a lot of the mental health challenges and things like anxiety is like overwhelming fast future thought.
Just going too fast.
So go slow down, and you might need less of your meds, or you might not need meds.
Mm-hmm.
And you might find other solutions there. And somebody put it beautifully in a men's group I was in, like, slow down to the speed of wisdom,
Ooh,
slow
that's
down to the
deep.
speed of love.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it feels so true to me, because when I do slow down, I do feel like I tap into that wisdom, that inner knowing, that feeling of love. Like it's not as fast as the world. Like those
Yeah.
things are slow. You think of wisdom, and for me, I think of like an old man.
You got
He's
to be
moving
slow. Yeah, he's moving
slow.
slow, paying
He's
attention to what's
moving
going on.
slow. Yeah.
Exactly.
Um, Slowing down. Two more important things for the next generation. Well, I mean, I'm wearing the shirt right now. This is part of a presentation I put together for teens. Face it and love it. And what that means is facing those challenges versus running from them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And learning how to love it, and therefore learning how to love yourself. Whatever that challenge is, anxiety, can you face it? And not like face it like in a confrontational way, but like in like a curious way, like facing what you're experiencing, looking at it, slowing down with it versus trying to run away from it, and then learning how to love it. Because these things that are challenging us, or those things that are present, they might be an uncomfortable emotion or a thought that keeps coming up and it's like driving you crazy and you can't get it out of your head. It's like, okay, and try, instead of trying to run from it or fight it, can you love it? you know and that can look so many different ways. Loving it, kind of like we hit on earlier, it can be being grateful for it. Loving it can just be like giving it the time and the space to just express itself, whether it's a thought and it just wants to finish the thought. It just wants you to hear what the thought has to say.
Mm-hmm.
Can you sit there and just hear it? And you don't need to be tied to it or stuck to it, but can you just give it some time and space? That's what you would do for a friend. If they
Exactly.
were like needing to go on a rant, you would
Treat
love them.
yourself
And
like your best friend. You got to be your best friend. Like you have
exactly.
to.
And the thing in that love it is, these things are your friend.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to help in some type of way. Anxiety is trying to keep you safe.
Mm-hmm.
Anger might be trying to set a
Yo,
boundary.
your feelings aren't bad. It's okay
No.
to feel whatever you feel, because like it's there for a reason. Your feelings are there to give you a stimulate of response to what's going on around you. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're anxious for a reason.
Exactly.
And it's not going to go away. Like you said, like the shirt says, like you got to face it head on. You
Mm-hmm.
can't, if something's bothering you, you can't just run from it, because it's not going to go away. It's going to catch
Mm-hmm.
up.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with people that start telling lies. Like it's too tiring to tell a lie, because then one lie begets the need for another lie, which begets the
Mm-hmm.
need for another lie. And then by that point, you got three lies you got to try and keep straight. And that's
Yeah.
too hard. It's the
Yeah.
same thing with what you're lying about. Like just face it head on, take the accountability, handle it right there, and keep it
Mm-hmm.
pushing. What's
Yeah.
your third one? If you got one, if you got a
Yeah.
third. Those first two were heavy. Those are good.
Yeah. I mean, man, like, I guess just like enjoy it
Mm-hmm.
as much as you can, whatever it is. Like, enjoy the process, enjoy the wins, as much as you can. Learn from the challenges, the losses, um, and enjoy what's there. Even in those losses, I'll say this to kind of finish things off. Like the losses that I've experienced in life of like loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
um, you can even enjoy that process of grieving through the remembering of the beautiful things, and not as like a toxic, like just be so positive about the whole thing,
Nah, still feel
but
the other emotions. But
still feel those
some of it's
things,
gonna make you smile. Like somebody, you're
bro.
gonna be thinking about somebody you loved. don't just sit and wallow in the sorrow, because that is the biggest, most immediate. That's the one that you feel the most. But
Mm-hmm.
you're also gonna have moments where you just start cracking up, laughing. You
Yep.
might look crazy at a funeral. Everybody else is
Mm-hmm.
crying, but you just remember that time that you know you and your grandma were riding around in a car and she said something crazy off the cuff that you were
Mm-hmm.
not expecting coming from your
Mm-hmm.
grandma.
Yeah.
And like that'll make you laugh. Feel that. You'll
Yeah.
be crying again. Cry it. Cry it out. You'll be angry.
100%.
You'll have anger. You feel whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but know how to control the emotions and not let those emotions control you.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, the word controlling
Exactly.
emotions,
Yeah. As soon as I
it
said it, I was like, nah,
it
experience them.
yeah, just feel them. Just feel 'em.
Hmm.
You don't need to control shit. Like just
Hmm.
let them flow and run the course, cuz it's like you trying to control a whole river of like
It's not
intensely
going to
flowing
happen.
water. You can't do it. You just need to
Hmm.
hold the space, create the boundaries and allow it to flow in a direction that's healthy,
Go ahead, Ben.
instead of getting
Go
stuck
ahead,
or
Ben.
like yeah, man. And it everything you were saying about like being at the funeral, like it took me back to that Ghana experience. Like
Hmm.
it was sad, but it
Hmm.
also was a celebration the day that Robert what like we had the ceremony for him,
Hmm.
and I think we can face death head on and learn how to love it and learn how to
Yeah.
appreciate it, and if you can't go all the way to love, that's okay, but can you go to there's a lesson here, and then
Hmm.
being grateful for the lesson. Like those are like the baby steps, like almost the like lily pads to
Hmm.
get to love. It's
Because you
like
can't go all the way all the
learning
time. Right.
appreciation. Yeah, it's a big jump to go
Take the
from I freaking
steps.
hate this to I love this. Like
Yeah.
that's big, but can you go from okay, I hate this to maybe there's something here I can learn from.
Just
And
get a little
then
bit better at it.
it goes to okay, I'm grateful for that lesson.
Hmm.
And now gratitude to love is a lot easier.
Hmm. I love that, man. That's a perfect place for us to go ahead and wrap this up. Is there anything, anyone that you want to talk about before we hop out of here? Anyone you want to give special thanks to, or anything you have coming up that you want to plug?
Yeah, man. I definitely want to give thanks for you for giving me the opportunity to get on here and just remind me of collaboration being such a beautiful thing for growth, for impact, for
Hmm.
just like life, just like the fuel of life. And Also just want to give thanks to a lot of people I already kind of shouted out here, just the people that have helped me get to where I'm at. Your support and love and belief is so powerful. That fuels me to continue going even through the challenging times, even through the low income times or whatever it is on these exploratory, if that's a word, paths. And yeah, I'll just plug, like, if you want to tap in with me as a high school athlete, I do every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Currently, we're in February of 2024, 7 p.m. Eastern, doing meditation, breath work, and conversation sessions every Sunday with just like athletes around the world, learning how to tap into our inner game, elevate that for results in our life on the field, on the court. And so you're invited there. And if you want to take it to the next level, I'm hosting a retreat down here in Costa Rica for
Yes,
basketball
he is.
players. And I'm super, super pumped about that. It's going to be all the nature, all the health and wellness things that Costa Rica has to offer. And then on top of that, basketball training and meeting and playing with players down here in Costa Rica. So it's going to be a blast for sure.
That's going to be special.
Yes,
That's going to be
sir.
special. Awesome, man. Ben, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for sharing your beautiful, beautiful talents, your personality, as well as your background, and all the sights and sounds of Costa Rica. We appreciate you being here. To everybody listening, thanks for your time and your attention. That's it for today's episode. Peace.
Peace.